Tennessee football franchise, talking about that guy, Hoogie Tyler every week. Heavy analytics, competition real steep. Whoa, that's sweet. Oh, in this belief, Nick so sick, man, bringing ships the whole fleet. Goats, not sheep. Follow every tweet. Don't sleep, always finding sleepers on the street. Boy, F3, winning every single league. Money back guaranteed, but it's free. Welcome to the franchise. Welcome to the franchise. Let's go.
All right, welcome back to the F3 podcast. My name is Sean. You can find me at Laney1925 on Twitter. I am here with my co-host Joey.
I am at Joey the Tooth IDP.
And Andrew.
I'm Biddy at DubsFans02.
All right, how you guys doing this week?
Splendid. How about yourself?
I don't know. That Lions-Chiefs game was wild, man. That was just a fucking roller coaster, and I went in expecting disaster, and then once the game got going, I was like, man, we could really win this. We could actually win this, and then we fell just short.
Yep, you were rocking half-mast until Mahomes broke your heart.
It wasn't even that. It was, man, we would have won by fucking 17 points if it weren't for the two fumbles inside the 10-yard line, the one at the 1-yard line, and one of the wildest plays I've ever seen.
I know.
Breland
picks it up and just goes.
Yeah, a lot of people bitching about that call in Detroit. It was the right call, though. It was a call that doesn't usually get made, where you never see that, where there's a pile at the goal line and they don't whistle it dead.
Right.
But no, he wasn't down. It was the right call. It was just a strange one you don't see very often. So, but we got a lot of news to cover from week 4. Joe, you got something you want to kick it off with?
Let's see. We'll start with Gardner Minshew.
My guy. If you guys are watching on video right now, I got a Gardner Minshew t-shirt with him just staring off into the distance, and it just says, "I need a hero."
Need a hero.
One of the better purchases I've made in my life, which I don't know, doesn't say a lot, but Gardner Minshew is still looking really good.
Where's that shirt stuck up to your Baker Mayfield jersey?
What was that?
Where does that shirt stuck up to your Baker Mayfield jersey?
I don't know. I'd say they're pretty close. I think this one's the better t-shirt just because it's entirely possible that they just never make a Gardner Minshew t-shirt after this year, where he may end up being a backup quarterback and I never get another shot at this.
And then he legit says, "I need a hero." Yeah.
So I mean, who knows? Maybe he ends up being great, maybe not, but I'd say Baker probably has the more sustainable career path at this point. But yeah, he's still looking good. Looking at the contract, Nick Foles, after this year, he's still got a pretty big cap hit, but you can save $14.5 million by cutting him. And I think if Minshew keeps playing well, fans would riot in the streets if they benched him. So
right.
I think this is his team to lose right now, right?
Well, I liked watching that final drive where he led him to the game-winning field goal. He avoided 3 or 4 sacks on one play and then converted a 20-yard completion. He's just poised beyond what anybody would expect.
He's what you call a gamer.
That's right.
It just shows up.
It doesn't look good, but he's always there.
It's not pretty, but it works.
Do you think it's sustainable?
I don't know. I mean, if I knew that, he wouldn't. If anybody knew that, he wouldn't have been a 6th-round draft pick.
Right.
No, but what I mean is there's no. I don't see any possible way he's going to continue to play at this level. So I think it's going to come down. How far can it come down and he still maintain the job? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, if he comes down to basically I don't know how much it'll come down. I think he's not playing as well as what everyone thinks. He's playing far better than he was expected to, and he's got the whole personality thing going for him. But I think he's playing as a league average quarterback right now. And if he plays as a league average to slightly below average quarterback, I think that this is his job to lose. And I don't think that if he continues to play this way, I don't think they'll be in a position to draft a quarterback next year.
Right,
So,
and I mean, he's just not turning the ball over either. He has one interception in his 4 starts.
But
Yeah.
I think there's just a really skewed perception of what league average quarterback play is. Like if you were to name another player, how would you define league average quarterback play?
I mean, Andy Dalton is the go-to answer.
And that's who I was thinking of too. But like Andy Dalton's played really well this year.
I know we're talking like career averages though. Like this
Yeah.
year he's playing above that, I think.
But Andy Dalton's played well enough to keep a starting job for
Many seasons.
How many is it now? Is it 8? Is it 8 years he's been in the league now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's my point. If you play at league average quarterback level, like
you can sustain a career.
Yeah.
So you're saying that he's currently playing at league average. So I guess if he plays down to Mariota levels, not Mariota this week, but Mariota the first 3 weeks, does he keep his job?
Mariota the first 3 weeks of this season where he was atrocious, or Mariota over the course of his career where he's been below average?
Exactly.
I think it's a little tougher for him because of draft capital investment, but
Right.
I think that he has the fan base behind him. So I think that helps. So he probably could still sustain a career at Mariota level production.
So you're saying if Mariota had a sweet mustache, he would just keep that job forever.
Probably, yeah.
And a little bit of flash to his apparel.
Yeah, I mean, if you were working out in jock straps all the time, I think that he'd probably just be a Hall of Famer.
Who says I'm not?
Not you.
I've heard there's
Nobody
a
wants to see
mustache too.
All right, moving on from Gardner Minshew. Let's talk a below league average quarterback, Mitch Trubisky. Trash quarterback, actually. Went down with injury. Chase Daniels came in, and the offense looked better, right?
It looked better.
Like, I mean, it was a joke when we were all tweeting it out that, like, this was probably the best thing that could happen to the Bears, but realistically, like, the offense seemed to open up a little bit.
I'm gonna bring it down like I just said with Minshew. It's the poise. Like Trubisky doesn't look comfortable playing quarterback. He just doesn't look comfortable. Chase Daniels got in there, and it was just kind of he's gonna play quarterback. He's not gonna worry as much. Like I don't know. He's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I don't think Chase Daniels played with a ton of confidence either. It was just so night and day from Trubisky that it looked good, even though it really wasn't all that good, you know?
Right.
It's Chase Daniel.
Yeah, I know. I was going to correct myself, but I was hoping you wouldn't catch it.
And obviously I didn't.
Yeah. But
I'm just a jerk like that.
I don't know. So, like, if the problem is that the Bears are good enough that they can win game. They have won games with Trubisky. They have won a game with Chase Daniel now. So I don't think that continuing to win games is going to be enough for Daniel to keep his job, really.
Right.
And I think that they're too stubborn to like give up on Trubisky already, even though it's very clear to me that he hasn't progressed since his rookie season.
Right. They're gonna still ride that quote unquote potential that Trubisky's got.
Right. So unless Trubisky has a setback, I think that Trubisky is going to get this team back regardless of what Chase Daniel does.
So, sorry, did you give a timeline for his return? Because I had thought I had read somewhere that it was potentially season-ending.
He does not require surgery.
Right. So he will be back, and I think it's sooner rather than later.
It could be week 7, so they have a game this week, and then week 6 they have a bye, and it's potential return for 7.
And, all right, so just quickly, can we talk short term? Is this an upgrade for anybody? Is this a downgrade for anybody?
I think this is an upgrade for everybody on that offense, except that I don't think it'll be a long-term upgrade. So I think this might help you with your start sits for the next couple of weeks, but I don't think that it's going to be anything that is going to be like a long-term upgrade for anyone. I don't think either of these guys is a long-term answer, and I realistically think Trubisky comes back and they give him the reins back.
Yeah.
So was the running game bottled up because the Vikings defense is that good, or were they just trying to make Daniel beat them with his arm?
I think probably both.
I was going to say a little bit of both.
Yeah, and I guess the third factor is that the running game really hasn't been that good this year anyway.
2.2 yards per carry is pretty bad, though.
I feel like, I mean, after watching last season with Tariq Cohen, he's severely underutilized in that team.
They just alternate years. They're like, oh, yeah, we got something good here. Let's throw that away and do something else instead.
Right.
So
Like, I don't know. He was used so well in the passing game last year, and I feel like that helped out Mitch Trubisky a little bit. Why don't you start running that offense a little bit more again? It was a lot
yeah,
more efficient than what you're running now.
well, they invested so much in David Montgomery. I think they feel basically like required to use him,
Right.
which like I like to see, but at the same time, like it's not conducive to running a good offense. Running the football is not that important. You got to use the pass to open up the run. This isn't the early 90s where you have to do the reverse.
Right.
So yeah, we got one more year next year of Tariq Cohen, but on the Bears. And then I think that he's probably too valuable for them to sign if they're not using him. So this might be a good buy window for Tariq Cohen,
Yeah.
which is kind of hard to say because I actually just sold a couple of Tariq Cohen shares not too long ago. But this might be a good buy window for him because he's not getting anything done. We got a whole nother year of the Bears. And this buy window should last into like midway through next year, probably.
What's a good landing spot for him?
That all depends on the 2020 class, basically.
Mm.
So,
But if you look at his
What
remaining
offense?
schedule, what offense?
What offense would you like to see him in?
I
Kansas
mean,
City.
are we assuming that
Kansas
the 20
City with a
That's what I
receiving
thought.
back.
Yeah, I mean, if we assume that that basically the 2020 class doesn't exist, there are plenty of teams out there that I think he could be useful to. The Dolphins come to mind just because they're going to be throwing a lot, and I think that what they want to do with Kalen Ballage, they could actually do with Tariq Cohen, and they would actually uptick the volume. I think that he could see a Darren Sproles role over in Philly. I think that depending on how they feel about their backs over in San Francisco, he could be a nice addition over there. Like honestly, there are a ton of different teams that he could fit in with. It just depends on whether or not the coach knows how to utilize him. And unfortunately, there's so few players like him. There's, Tariq Cohen, there's Theo Riddick, there's Duke Johnson, there's Darren Sproles. Those are like the type of guys that you're looking at. And there have been so few of them over the years that you can't really see which teams actually know how to utilize a player like that because they just haven't been on enough teams.
Right. Well, the Bears last year.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but now it's gone. So
Yeah. But if you look at I like your buy low window there. I mean, if you look at his remaining schedule, it's actually very conducive to running backs. Like a lot of points given up to running backs. And I think maybe if he struggles again next week, I think they may try to use, and the whole offense struggles, they may take that week 6 bye to kind of try to get Cohen back into the offense a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that.
Would you want to see him in New Orleans?
No. I don't think that's
as a Kamara owner. No,
I don't think that's a good fit for him either, because I think that the things that Cohen excels at, Kamara already excels at. So you're not adding anything to the equation; you're just subtracting from it.
Maybe a little Tampa Bay, since Ronald Jones can't catch well.
Yeah,
throw him in as their third down back.
Bruce Arians, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk. I mean, since we were kind of talking quarterbacks, let's move on to Darnold. Still out.
Still not cleared.
Yeah. Apparently, there's complication with mono, and he had something going on with his spleen.
Quick question for you guys.
Yes, I did not kiss him.
Have either of you ever had mono?
Have not.
No.
You?
It wasn't. I wasn't never diagnosed with mono, but I was diagnosed with something very similar to mono, and so I missed out
Herpes?
on. No, it's just another.
Never goes away.
Another. I think I'm gonna get this wrong. Whether it's viral or bacterial, I'm pretty sure it's viral. That's why you can't take antibiotics for it, and so no, that's why your spleen basically. That's why spleen is enlarged, because the spleen is associated with your immune system.
I'm just trying to figure out where we're going with this.
No, it's a real thing. Like your spleen takes in all the bad stuff and inflames, and so if it ruptured, your spleen is actually a really bad thing to rupture. You can live without your spleen, but it's not a good thing. And
if it ruptures, it's not good at all.
No, And so it's actually like really a big deal that they're afraid. Do you guys remember a couple years ago when Witten had that ruptured spleen?
No.
No.
Oh my god.
Somebody had a lacerated
Do you guys
spleen
even,
too.
do you guys even watch football?
I could give two shits.
I'm pretty sure Witten
Cowboys.
did, and I think
Somebody else had a lacerated spleen.
Keenan Allen might have also had a lacerated spleen.
I think it was Keenan Allen.
But I think Witten did as well. Anyway.
Do we want to talk Darnold?
This is a legit concern, though. No, people are making light of the ruptured spleen. It's a big deal.
Well, that's why they're not starting, and that's why he's sitting.
And it's smart.
It is. But Luke Falk is starting, and that's not smart.
No, that's not great. So until Darnold comes back, this really isn't great for anybody's value over there. It just hasn't been conducive to production, and I think that's just probably going to continue until we get Darnold back.
Sit everybody.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Even Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, the touches are there. I mean, he's getting some receptions, but still his yards are trash because everybody's saying, "Oh wait, their offense is Le'Veon Bell."
Yep, and we talked about this before the year. This was kind of how we anticipated this going. Oh, all right, we're gonna take a short break, and then we will be back to talk more Week 4 news. All right, we're back, and we are going to continue to talk some of these developing quarterback situations and just kind of how they affect the fantasy football landscape right now. Andrew, you got someone you want to talk about?
Well, Jay Gruden finally saw the light and pulled the plug on the Case Keenum experiment.
Yeah, and now begins the Dwayne Haskins experiment, and
which doesn't show too much light. That light's dim as well.
I think is it on Haskins though, or is that on?
No, not 100%.
So I read some. I can't remember where I read it. It must have been Twitter, that they basically were questioning the commitment of the team midway through that game. Like they quit, and that's a poor reflection on the coaching staff. Yeah. It's tough to go in as a backup quarterback on a team that's already quit. That's not playing their starting left tackle because he refuses to play for your franchise because of your handling of his medical history.
And your number one receiver's out.
That's a tough place to step into.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what he's stepping into. So, like, we're not here to talk. Like, I was never a Dwayne Haskins fan, like, never a fan of his tape, but that we're not here to talk about whether or not he's a good quarterback. We're here to talk about whether he's a good fantasy quarterback, or B, whether he can be good enough in his situation to produce good fantasy assets.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, he's a concern. And we talked about this on the show last week where, like, yeah, Case Keenum wasn't playing well, but, like, he was good for Terry McLaurin. So what does Haskins do to Terry McLaurin's value? Because, again, like, it was a huge hype thing that they played together in college and that was going to help him and all that stuff. But, like, do we really think he's going to get a better target share now that Haskins is there? Because he was already getting a pretty absurd target share in Washington.
I don't think it changes too much. What I'm more or less worried about is their upcoming schedule. Like, okay. Haskins is just going to get destroyed within 4 of his next 5 games. He gets New England, San Francisco, who's played really well on defense, Minnesota, and Buffalo. All great defensively. And then you throw Miami in there in the mix, which is, I mean, who knows, but.
So it was kind of a bummer we didn't get to see McLaurin this week with him, but because I mean that's really the one you care about. Like,
right.
I don't really care about Paul Richardson long term. AP's holding down the fort down there, rushing for 3 yards a carry. I mean, it's just,
not even.
Yeah, I mean, like, McLaurin's really the only asset over there that I care about at the moment.
But are you worried about him getting less targets? Like, I don't think it's going to affect his target share because A, I think he's already the best player on the team. Mm-hmm. And B, I think that the offensive scheme was actually not terrible. Like, they were actually generating offense, right? Are you worried about the quality of throws that he's getting those targets, or?
No, I'm more worried that he was already getting a very healthy target share, and I don't think it can go up from that very much. But I think that And so to me, the switching quarterbacks only has downside for him unless the quality of target is going to go up and the volume remains exactly the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to assume that the volume will go down. So it's a matter of whether you think that.
But do you think it'll go up?
No, I don't think it will, and I don't think it needs to. I just think that I don't think that Case Keenum's a very good quarterback, so I don't think that Dwayne Haskins has to be incredible for the quality of target to go up.
The difference for me between the two, though, is Case Keenum has nothing to lose. Like he has plenty of confidence as a quarterback. Like he has no problem trying to make throws, and he's gonna make plenty of horrible throws. But he's not afraid to throw the ball. Haskins, I feel like, as a rookie quarterback stepping into a very unfavorable situation, is gonna second guess himself a lot.
He didn't seem to second guess himself on the 3 interceptions that he threw on 17 attempts.
If he didn't then, now he will.
So we're saying that the 3 interceptions is actually a plus for Terry McLaurin's value.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's what it sounds like you're saying.
That's what Joey was saying, that he's worried, like he was gonna be tentative. I don't think he is tentative. I think he's gonna try to make throws. He's a guy that believes that he can make every throw. A little bit of Matt Stafford in him, huh?
Now, were those picks because he believed he could make a good throw, or is it because he made a bad throw?
Honestly, I didn't have any of that game on, so I can't tell you that. What do you think?
I think a couple of them were just bad throws.
Okay.
I honestly am just not a believer in him, but I've been wrong about players before. Let's move on to talk Kirk Cousins being just a dumpster fire this year.
Complete dumpster fire. I have him in many leagues too.
He's really he's tanking all of the value on that offense outside of Dalvin Cook. And imagine what Dalvin Cook could be doing if the defense actually was spread out and had to respect the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, are we not celebrating the Stephon Diggs breakup party this week?
Oh my God. Diggs had a nice week this week, but this has not been a productive offense.
And the thing is, I mean, you look at the numbers he put up last year, right? And you did that without a great running game. I mean, you go in this year, you add more weapons. You add Irv Smith. I gave him some respect right there.
No, you didn't.
I did. You add Irv Smith to go along with Thielen and Diggs, and what happens? I mean, obviously the offensive line's playing well. Look what Dalvin Cook's doing with the offensive line. What really happened to make this happen?
Seems like they switched from a bad offensive coordinator to a worse one.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, Kirk Cousins does not understand the offense he's running.
Right. He was masked before. Either he was masked before, or he, like you said, he just doesn't understand it.
So you didn't like the previous OC?
No, I didn't at all. I thought that losing Shermer was the worst thing that could happen to the Vikings.
But he was very effective passing the ball last year.
Yes, from a statistical standpoint, but it didn't look the same. He didn't look like a huge upgrade over Keenum the year before, and he should be an upgrade as a talent over Keenum. Does that make sense? Where I expected them to take a step forward with Cousins,
and they took a step back,
and they did.
So hang on. I'm just trying to retrace our steps a little bit. So you think Cousins should be an upgrade over Keenum?
Yes.
And you think that Cousins is terrible?
I think that he's playing terribly. I don't think he's terrible.
Oh, okay. I was just like, how bad do you think Haskins is? You think Cousins is terrible and Keenum is worse, and Haskins is even worse than that. God.
I don't know that Haskins is worse than Keenum. I just don't think that Haskins is good. I don't have a lot of faith in him. I did not have a first-round grade on him, and I did not expect him to be a quality NFL starter based on his tape in college.
All right, let's not digress anymore. Sorry, I brought that up.
No worries. Andrew, you got another quarterback situation you want to talk about quick?
Yeah, Rosen. I'm heavily invested in Dynasty, and I've got to keep on believing. And he actually looked good very briefly in this game. They were competitive till half. He made a couple nice throws. The touchdown to Devontae Parker was, that was a big time throw, right? So
He's had a lot of big time throws, a lot of
He's
big
looked
time
pretty
drops.
good.
yeah, the drops have hurt him a lot.
Yeah, but like, how does it make you feel as a quarterback? I know he's still going to go out and try as hard as he can, but how do you feel knowing that your team around you is tanking, like your general manager and your coach are tanking to get a quarterback next year?
And that's what I'm thinking here. Like, I don't think they have any intention of actually having Rosen be a part of the future. So realistically, I think what he's playing for right now, this is
He's
an audition.
auditioning. Yeah,
He's for another team where
right.
they'll trade him away. So I honestly don't know, but that to me is much better for his dynasty value than remaining the long-term quarterback for Miami. So to me, like, Rosen is strangely like a buy right now because I think he's talented. He got dealt a shit hand in Arizona and then somehow moved to an even worse situation in Miami. And now hopefully, regardless of what somebody pays for him, he'll be able to move to a better situation next year. Preferably to a team that, like, might be just good enough that they aren't going to be able to pick a top quarterback in the draft next year, and so they take a shot on Rosen. Like if the Titans decide to move on from Mariota or something like that.
Then he's going to another team with a shit offensive line, though.
Maybe, but
Titans don't have that bad of an line, do they?
They gave up 16 and a half sacks in the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, Mariota.
Yeah, he holds the ball too long.
I also think that just moving on from Devontae Parker and Jakeem Grant onto A.J. Brown and Corey Davis would be a huge step in the right direction, and he'd actually have some talent around him. But how about just real quick, Josh Allen out with concussion protocol. I know Matt Barkley sometimes plays all right, but I think that regardless of how you feel about Josh Allen, we all know that I'm not a huge believer in him as an actual talent. I think he's an all right fantasy quarterback due to his running ability, but I think he's good for fantasy value over Matt Barkley, at least, just because he takes shots down the field and stuff. He looked like shit in this last game before getting injured, but that's what you get with a quarterback with accuracy problems.
Against the Patriots, whose defense has been top notch all year.
Yeah. So, I don't think you can start anybody on the Bills until he comes back. And even then, you probably still don't want to start anybody on the Bills. But
what about Frank Gore?
I don't know. Cole Beasley had a nice day, too.
Frank Gore had over 100 yards, man.
I know. Good for him.
But if Singletary comes back, he'll cut into it a little bit.
Yeah. Gore's just there to tank Singletary's value is basically what he's there for.
Just like last year.
Don't you besmirch the everlasting Frank Gore.
Oh, no. I love Frank Gore. I hate him for fantasy, though.
He holds a piece of my heart.
Joe, you got a couple of guys you want to talk about, non-quarterbacks? Moving on real quick before we get to our last segment here.
Yeah, we can talk the guys returning from suspension. We got Golden Tate returning, Antonio Callaway, Chris Herndon, and Ben Watson all returning from their 4-game suspensions.
Yeah. Ben Watson's probably on your waiver wire.
Yeah.
It's, I think, worth an ad just because of the tight end landscape. I don't know that he's going to be prolific, and he could end up just being a waste of a pickup, but I think it's worth trying.
Right. Agreed. Herndon's going to be owned.
Herndon's going to be owned. You might have a nice buy low window on him over the next couple of weeks while Darnold's out. And then you might be able to get him for cheap and have a startable tight end for the stretch once Darnold comes back. Golden Tate's value, I think, goes up big time with Daniel Jones over Eli Manning there.
Only problem I worry about there is Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard runs, it was like 80% of his routes from the slot. Is Golden Tate going to move to the outside?
Golden Tate can play from the outside.
But he's so much better from the slot, just like Sterling Shepard.
It depends on the year. He's had years where he was much better from the outside than he was the slot. The key thing is just to get him the ball in space.
Yeah.
So, you don't sign Golden Tate with Sterling Shepard on the roster if you don't have a plan for that.
Right.
Unless you're just terrible at what you do, which is possible. And then Antonio Callaway is kind of a flyer. I think everybody doesn't give a fuck about him right now because the Browns offense has been so bad, and they got Odell and they got Jarvis Landry. But Callaway is a big player, and I think he could be something. I'm not really banking on him. I'm not trying to start him anytime soon, but I think that's an interesting pickup. I think you can get him for like a 3rd or a 4th round pick at this point.
I think Baker likes him too, though. I think Baker had him and Baker had a pretty good connection if he could catch the ball last year. He had way too many drops.
He's always had problems with drops.
That's
kind of been his MO. He's kind of a Will Fuller type. He's a good deep threat, but he drops a lot of passes.
Yeah.
Andrew, you got thoughts on any of these guys?
It's, to me, because you've seen everybody else play for 4 weeks, I don't think you're starting him this week. I think it's just a wait and see. So, yeah, take a flyer on him, but...
Not starting them, but are there any of these guys that you're going out to buy?
No. I mean, some of these guys that take off waivers, but I think I get Ben Watson stashed in like a deep Dynasty league where you could put suspended players on IR. And so now I got to figure out if I'm going to drop him or drop somebody else to move him off IR, right? And it's like, I don't know, like he could be something, but I'm much more about the youth movement in Dynasty, so I'm probably not rostering any of these. Oh, Callaway's young, so
you might be able to shop him for like a 4th round pick. See if anybody's hurting for tight ends, because a lot of teams are.
Yeah, I'd be into that.
Oh. All right, and then Joe, you got one more guy to talk about real quick before we take a break.
Cortland Sutton scored another 2 touchdowns this year. It's kind of like a turn into the guard at the receiver position for the Broncos. Sanders is still there, getting just as many targets and whatnot, but Cortland Sutton's the definite red zone threat, and I think Sanders his contract's up after this year.
Yeah, I think Sanders is on his way out the door. I think it's going to be tough for him to sign another contract. He's got like a $13 million price tag right now, and I think he'd probably rather hit free agency and get the most he can get on his last contract. Mm-hmm. So he'll be 33 years old next year, I think. So he only really gets one more contract here, and despite looking good so far this season. But I think he's going to want to hit free agency and get one last paycheck. So he's probably on his way out the door. This is a Cortland Sutton show now. I was not as big a believer as everybody else. I liked him, but I didn't like him as much as a lot of other people out there. And I've definitely come around and become a believer. Unfortunately, it's probably too late to buy him. And if you have any leagues where there's some sort of like buy window, I think this is a good time to do it.
Andrew? I like Sanders. I could see him going somewhere and having value, but Cortland Sutton, I don't know. I don't trust Flacco.
Yeah, but Flacco's not the answer there long term.
No, but is Drew Lock the answer?
No, but they're 0-3, man. Like they could ease 0-4. Excuse me. They could easily end up with a top 5 pick and get a quarterback next year.
Tank for Tua.
But they're not actively tanking like Miami. Do you think they can out-tank Miami without trying?
I don't think
Bradley
so.
Chubb's out for the year. He tore his ACL.
But like you end up with a top 3 pick, and like there are a couple of quarterbacks next year worth looking at, you know?
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, theoretically right now, like Herbert's still worth talking about.
Yeah.
I just feel like Cortland Sutton has too much I'm drawing a blank on the name. Minnesota Vikings Treadwell. He's got too much Laquan Treadwell to his game.
But he's got far more production than Treadwell in his first 2 seasons.
But he's also been thrust into a more prominent role where Treadwell's playing behind Diggs and Thielen.
Right, but playing behind Diggs and Thielen, like he was on the field for a good amount and just couldn't get any targets because he doesn't create separation. Sutton has excelled where Treadwell failed.
Is Sutton creating separation, or is he making contested catches?
Sutton was always much better at creating separation at the catch point as well as at the stem of his route using his physicality, whereas Treadwell never was able to do that in college or in the pros. His greatest asset as a player was his blocking. And I'm dead serious, man. I'm dead serious. So, all right.
Well, good for you.
We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back to lightning round, the last of the news this week. All right, we are back, and unfortunately, due to Andrew talking about his spleen for so long, we have to lightning round the last bit here. So I'm going to kick it off with Aaron Jones. I am selling Aaron Jones everywhere I can right now because he has not looked good this year. He might still hold some value in terms of trade value because he's still putting up points due to his goal line usage, but I just don't think that's sustainable on a weekly basis, and I think he just could be a victim of the 2020 running back class. What are you guys doing with Aaron Jones?
I'm selling him too. I just don't like him in the offense. It's still Aaron Rodgers' offense, and Aaron Rodgers does what he wants, and they still don't run the ball as much as they've said that they were going to. Like, not even half as much as they said they were going to.
Fair enough. Andrew?
I think I'm holding them because I don't think that this coaching regime change is going to last long, and they're going to make another change, and I think that's all it takes to unlock Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones.
All right. Joey, who are we talking about?
Matt Breida, buy low right now with Tevin Coleman coming back. He's a potential buy low. He'll probably still start when Coleman comes back because they're gonna ease into his ankle. But Breida has just by far been their best running back.
Yeah, and I was not a Breida believer. I've come around to him, and I'm definitely shopping around right now with Coleman coming back. I think you might be able to get him a little cheaper than what you could a week ago.
Breida's a stud. Quit giving Wilson the goal line work and let him get a touchdown. He could be the number one running back in fantasy or close to it. I think he's a better player than Austin Eckler.
That's bold.
No, it's not. How many rushing touchdowns does Jeff Wilson have this year?
Too many, I think, is the answer.
And look at all the receiving work that Raheem Mostert's getting. Bundle that into Breida. Oh my god.
That's the point, though, is that's how they use their backs. So
yeah,
I know it's hurtful.
All right, Andrew, who are you talking about?
Carson didn't fumble. He looked really good yesterday. I read something about like 21 broken tackles / forced missed tackles. Like, just elusive for a man that size. So he looks really good. I was always a fan, but I think he's maybe taken a little bit of the hot seat out of his repertoire because he was under a bit of pressure with those fumbles.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fumbles kind of put him on the hot seat, but he used this game to get himself back to that number one status in the team.
Yeah, I think Penny's window was this week, and then he was last second and no show to the game. So I don't know if you're a Penny believer. Now's the time to double, triple, quadruple down, I guess, because he's dirt value right now. Nobody gives a fuck about Penny, and honestly, I don't really blame him. I liked Penny's tape, but I'm off that bandwagon. Fournette finally had a good game. I am selling him if I can. If I can get a 2020 first for Fournette, I'm taking it. I don't believe in the health long term. I don't believe that the Jaguars believe in him long term. I think the fact that Raquel Armstead hasn't really seen much work is going to change at some point. And I just don't think this offense can run through Fournette the way that they want it to. And that's going to show eventually. And I think it's shown all year up till this point.
Did they actually remove his guarantees last year when there was that controversy about him? Do you know anything about that?
I remember that. I don't know if they actually removed his guarantees or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What do you think, Joey? Anything on Fournette?
I'm a big fan of Fournette, actually. I think they're going to continue to use him nonstop, especially with Minshew at quarterback. As good as he's playing, they're still lean heavy on the run game. It's just, I think the second half of this game, you finally saw the offensive line play well.
So you think he's a long-term stud in that offense?
I do. I really do.
Okay, I guess I'm not a believer in that. I think the health will get to him and he'll wear down. Joey, who do you want to talk about?
Jordan Howard. I said last week that the Miles Sanders fumbles would not be an issue because Jordan Howard didn't break out, and then Jordan Howard decided he was going to break out. He had 82 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, plus 4 targets, 3 receptions for 28 yards and another touchdown, and Miles Sanders saw 0 targets.
Yeah, the fact that Sanders saw 0 targets after seeing some deep targets against the Lions is just baffling to me, especially since Howard can't catch the football.
Right.
I think this is going to be a pretty even split this year. I think that Sanders will probably take over that job next year, but this year I honestly don't trust that backfield, and anybody who's relying on Miles Sanders as an actual weekly start is probably in trouble. Andrew?
I think it's a flash in the pan. I don't think Jordan Howard is the answer. So I'm doubling down on Miles Sanders.
All right. Who you got for me?
Ronald Jones.
RJ.
Speaking of flashes in the pan, do you think this is one of them?
Yes and no. Like you've alluded several times to the 2020 class being the death knell for a lot of these running backs that are just holding on to jobs by the skin of their teeth, right? But my perception is that he's a much more talented player than Peyton Barber, and it is an offense that can lead to productive running backs, and I think that he could be productive. If he's going to commit to him, and I think they've shown glimpses of wanting to commit to him over Barber. So I think the more that he shows that he can actually respond, I think the better it is for him. So yeah, I would. I'm not overpaying for him, but I see myself buying some Jones shares.
Would you pay mid-second for him?
I think I would.
Okay. Joey, mid-second?
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay, interesting.
Do you have him any leagues that you'll give him to me for a mid-second?
I might actually. Well,
I do. I do in the league we're playing each other right now.
I have a couple of shares of him where I got him for a third last year just because I was not a believer in him, and sometimes I like to hedge my bets where it's like, yeah, I'm in 11 leagues, own no shares of this guy. If I'm wrong, I probably won at least one. So Browns offense came to life finally.
Did. Nick Chubb came to life.
Nick Chubb came to life. Baker looked good. Jarvis Landry looked good. The only
Ricky Seals-Jones.
The only one that didn't happen was Odell Beckham, and that's like devastating to me. But I think that if the offense keeps playing well, Beckham will get his, and I'm not too worried about it. We just need the Browns to keep playing well. You selling or buying any of the Browns players right now, guys?
I'm buying Ricky Seals-Jones. He is, because Harris is he's a blocking tight end, and Seals-Jones is a move tight end, and Baker likes to look at his tight ends in the red zone.
Okay, what about when Njoku comes back?
Isn't he? How long is he out for though?
He's on IR. I think he's eligible to return though.
I mean, you get Ricky Seals-Jones right now for next to nothing. You can just go to waivers and grab him.
Not waivers. I don't have him on waivers.
You don't think so?
Nah, I mean, like he might be on waivers. He won't be by this time next week though.
Right, I'm saying you can go to your wire right now and pick him up though.
So what are you paying in waiver wire budget for him out of $100 budget?
Out of $100, I'll pay $15.
Okay, all right, you'd probably get him for that, I think.
Yeah,
I was gonna say 5.
Yep. So you would have gotten him in this scenario.
But so hang on. I know I'm gonna do it again. Demetrius Harris, he's the blocker. Isn't he the basketball player? He was a college basketball player, was he not?
Not sure, but everywhere he's been, he's just been the blocking tight end. Kansas City, here. I mean, they wouldn't go sign Ricky Seals-Jones and give him 3 targets if he was the receiving tight end.
And I agree. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Ricky Seals-Jones was a 5-star wide receiver recruit into college.
I believe so, yeah. And he was in an air raid offense. So.
Yeah, so no, I think we're on the same page, but I don't think you want to sleep on Demetrius Harris. I think that he's got a little bit of potential value as well.
And he'll probably be dropped for Ricky Seals-Jones in your league, so worth nothing. Joey, you got one more to talk about here?
Melvin Gordon came off of his holdout. Didn't really do. Did he even touch the ball?
No, he didn't play a snap. I don't think.
Yeah, he was eligible, but
emergency
he was available
backup.
to plan.
I'm selling Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I am too.
I think that I think Eckler's still going to get a bunch of work. So I'm buying Eckler. I'm selling Gordon right now, and I'm totally okay with that. And I don't think that Melvin Gordon is going to end up in a favorable situation. He's heading into a year where he's going to have a really rough running back class to deal with. So
I think the splits last year between before his injury and after his injury were startling.
Yeah.
And I think that the Chargers are one of not that many teams that are recognizing that you can get the same production out of different guys. So they're not gonna just give one guy the load. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah, I think Eckler's a pretty good buy low with Melvin Gordon coming back. I don't know how low you can get him, but I'm trying. Last thing to talk about today, we got Corey Davis and A.J. Brown coming back to life. Davis actually got decent volume. A.J. Brown was just super efficient with his volume, long touchdown, all that stuff. Honestly, the fact that Mariota had a good game, I think, is bad for both their values because it just means more Mariota. And we've seen to this point that Mariota cannot actually sustain receivers.
Yeah, he didn't even really have that good of a game. He had 18 completions.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I think this is probably actually not great for Corey Davis and A.J. Brown, despite the fact they actually put up points.
Sell high.
Who's the wide receiver one?
Corey Davis.
Oh.
Just based on volume, I think A.J. Brown has a little ways to go. He's always needed a little bit of development on his route running and stuff, just based on the weird offense they ran at Ole Miss. But yeah, I don't know. I was really hoping that we could just get Mariota out of the picture. Tannehill comes in and either helps their production or is so bad that they draft a quarterback next year.
Is Adam Humphries a good football player?
No.
No.
Me too.
All right. This has been the F3 podcast. You can find us on YouTube at Writer Digest Network, REITER. You can find our written content at idpguys.org or at dynastyfootballdigest.com. For $1 a month, you can subscribe to either site. You get tools, rankings, combined offensive, defensive, ADP. You get access to our Slack channel where all of our writers, podcasters, basically everybody a part of this network can and will answer your questions on any trades, draft issues, anything you want to ask us, we will answer for you. We have a trade calculator. We do start-sit charts. Just a really good, solid package for $1 a month. It's just dirt cheap, and they do not pay us enough. Yeah, so I am at Lanny1925 on Twitter, and we have Joey here, who is at
Joey the Tooth IDP.
And Andrew, who is at
Lanigan Fanigan 1925.